Is AI becoming God? Believe it or not, a lot of people think that's actually happening. Just go over to your friendly YouTube and search "Will AI be God?" or Google search it or ask ChatGPT, and you get a lot of different input. We're going to start with Geoffrey Hinton, the godfather of AI, and see what he has to say about it, and then we'll discuss it.
What it's doing? No. Um, I think we're moving into a period when, for the first time ever, we may have things more intelligent than us. You believe
Let me pause that for a second. I've never beaten a video game. Like a calculator can do more than I can. Certainly a spreadsheet.
Yeah.
It's always just finds me weird when people are like, oh, finally there's a machine more intelligent than us. I feel like that's surpassed like 50 or 60 years ago.
Yeah, a long time ago. I've walked around
So
Walmart, man. Most of those people are not as smart as a calculator.
my TI-89 could do some pretty cool stuff. And that was 20 years ago. Like, so I don't know. I think what they're trying to say maybe is it could do everything more
Oh,
intelligent than a human. He doesn't say that, but maybe that's their implication that like everything. My TI-89 couldn't do like can't write copy or write a love letter or something. I don't think there might be a way to get it to do that, but you know.
You can. You actually can.
what?
Um, so we'll give him that. We'll grant him, okay, he actually means that it's going to be smarter than us at everything. And it's one device, not purpose like specifically designed. Let's move on.
they can understand.
Yes.
You believe they are intelligent.
Yes.
You believe these systems have experiences of their own and can make decisions based on those experiences.
In the same sense as people do, yes.
Pause there.
Yeah, he just went through a lot of things. I don't even remember all of them.
Technical standpoint, I can't disagree with any of that. They are experiences, but because only because of what he says next, right after this. I think he qualifies that a little bit as far as experiences.
What was the first thing he said that was before the experiences? Make their own decisions, yes.
Which, yes, well, are they their decisions though? They're calculated decisions based on input. Yeah, it's all based on input. It's all just calculating.
They
But
can understand. The understand one is interesting because you guys are familiar with, and I probably can find it, that like the best language models do not actually understand multiplication.
correct. The way
Like
they actually come to the answers of things is not by using the formulas that they will tell you they use to come to that.
right.
It's
Now
not the
they
way that neural
can
networks work.
do basic multiplication, but
Yeah,
there's a level at which it just doesn't know how it works and it stops getting the number right. And the more advanced ones, the level keeps moving up. So now it's, nine significant digits or 10 significant, whatever it is, but it doesn't understand how it works. It's just somehow, we don't even know how, getting it right when it's four times four, but when it's 437 million, whatever, then all of a sudden it's like, oh wait, you don't actually know how multiplication works, even though it read all the books. So I don't know. It's hard for me to know if he, because they seem to be talking in the present tense.
he might have misspoke when he said that, or he may be talking about like big time. Well, let's see how if
But at some level, I also don't know that I really care that much. Like, yeah, do they understand? Mm,
I think we
understanding of
understand.
things is almost like unprovable, right? So when he starts to say, do they have
I
experience of
can, I
sensing?
can, I can prove this. I can prove this right now because they are just calculators. They will calculate the exact same thing, given the same seed and the same thresholds. If you give them an input of any kind and you keep those numbers the same, they will give you the exact output from the models. Now, what a lot of modern AI systems are today is they're not single models. They're actually lots of models working together. In fact, that Gemini N model that they released yesterday, that has multiple models built into it. And the way that it works is it actually has multiple language models inside of it. So that's how it does its little reasoning on things. It has models that make
Checking itself.
decisions on this or on that and then sends it over to the other side. But there's no point in which there is a singleized or a single spot where it is all thinking about that. It doesn't understand. It only calculates. That's all it can do is calculate.
Yeah, and this is in the book we talk about the research on consciousness and seeing red. Can't remember the author of Seeing Red, but the difference between perception and experience, right? This is the difference between my thermostat in my home perceives temperature, right? My car, if I get into a wreck, has the perception of impact and G forces because then it deploys an airbag. But if my car runs into another car at 40 miles an hour, or I'm on my bicycle going 40 miles an hour and run into another person, like the way we experience those things is very, very different, right? The car doesn't have pain even though it perceives destruction. And so I don't know how deep this goes from his perspective, but it feels like a little too simplistic. Because I don't know how you would demonstrate that a large language model has that experience, particularly if it's not embodied, right? And so he believes, so that's just his, I guess he believes at some point that we'll be able to separate the experience from the perception.
It's all weighted math at this point. I hate to disagree with
Right.
somebody obviously more intelligent than me, but this is all weighted math. It's not intelligence. It's not knowledge. It's not having thoughts of its own. It's literally dominoes, guys. It's a
I
Rubik.
don't know about any of that. I'm fine with saying it has intelligence. I'm fine with saying it even has understanding. When he says it when it has experience the way humans do, which now takes us into the realm of actual experience, not just perception, intelligence, understanding. Like I put those as a completely like calculated type thing. Should we continue?
Yeah. Roll to the next. Hey, Rob.
Intelligent?
Yes.
You believe these systems have experiences of their own and can make decisions based on those experiences.
In the same sense as people do, yes.
Are they conscious?
See, this is what I think he means with the same sense as people do, just to qualify that one. I believe he thinks like Kurzweil, like the billionaire tech bros,
Oh,
which is we are just meat computers, right?
see, I
So
actually
they
saw
don't
that.
believe in things like free will, they don't believe in a soul. So it's a totally materialistic worldview, which says what you just said earlier, given the right inputs, you and I will act the exact same way. It's
Huh.
just our computer is weighing and biasing based on how our parents raised us and based on cultural influences and based on genetics and blah blah blah. So I believe that's what he's saying here. If he's not, I know Kurzweil, Gates, like a bunch of the other guys, that is more of how they think in line, but that seems to be what he's saying. Let's continue.
I think
Oh,
they
there we
probably don't have much self-awareness at present. So in that sense, I don't think they're conscious.
Will they have self-awareness,
Oh, yes.
consciousness?
I think, oh, yes, I think they will in time.
And so human beings will be the second most intelligent beings on the planet.
Fourth.
I love his response to this because it's like, did this dude just ask me this question? Like, seriously, this is the best you've got? After that whole cut, we'll be the second most intelligent. Yeah, great, man. That's really what you took from this. Great. You were a wonderful interviewer that has no idea what he's talking about. And this, of course, is a diatribe to, but that's the problem with most of the interviewers that I've seen with tech bros and gurus and whatever they call themselves, is they have no idea what questions to ask. And so they never call one of the carpet on this stuff.
Yeah.
So Rob, we're talking about AI becoming God. What was the other video that might get us into that realm? No.
Well, I'd like to hear what Rob has to say on the topic.
Yeah, I mean, it's a dangerous one to respond to. Other than the fact that I don't think AI will become God. I mean, I feel like that's straightforward, right? Most people would understand that, except that guy apparently, who has a platform which I find amazing.
He's the godfather of AI. You realize that,
Yeah.
right?
He's
Yeah,
the
he also said humans are self-aware. I've met many humans that are not, so I feel like that's off the table. But yeah, the whole God thing. I don't see the whole thing is like an exercise in like unbending your mind. But if that would mean that the human is God at some point because we created the machine that then became the God. So I, I don't quite, I don't follow that.
Rob's thinking
Goes
today.
back in time and creates the universe. It's so simple.
There you go. That's essentially what is that the Mo Gaudet Tom Bill you discussion where he basically where he says it's one of these ones here where he's like the first person that puts AI into their brain, like basically they supplement their abilities with AI, is gonna be God. Um, I'm gonna do the beginning of this one because I think this is the question, the way that Joe Rogan asks it, that a lot of people think. I think his wording is I don't know what's going on here.
For better or worse,
Oh,
we
this
are
guy. Let's do this
creating
guy.
a god. It is on its way. Something that is as powerful as what all the religious scriptures talk about a god being able to do. That's being created, and it's still a big question mark whether it's a good god.
Okay, let's just pause there.
I'm going to use my computer to part the Red Sea.
Like, does this guy never read anything? Like,
No, nothing. He is probably one of the dumbest people I've ever seen on the
I wish
planet.
I knew who he was.
I
Oh, is
just
this Tim
put up
Urban?
all-
Okay, so I don't know. Is he a country singer? Is that Tim Urban, country singer? Maybe I don't know.
AI
No.
Ventures. Wait, does he talk about AI all the time?
So what's the problem with what he just said there? I don't want to pick on a guy. I want to pick on his
All right,
Arguments.
let's start with
beliefs, his
the
arguments.
formula, the basics. What is God?
Not what he thinks.
Like
That's
people are throwing around this thing. What is God? The classical definition of God, the God that at least the three major religions understand, the Abrahamic religions,
okay.
is the thing that exists outside of time, space, matter, and information, I think, although that's kind of a newer one, but at least time, space, matter, and energy. Um, it has to be non-material, exist outside of time, and so on, because those things it had to create. And anything that is limited by those things could not then create them. So it is the beginning, it is the precursor to the Big Bang. And this has been a 2,300-year understanding that the Big Bang and other laws of conservation of energy, laws of conservation of matter, and so on have confirmed this. It's called a hypothesis, a God hypothesis, through scientific means. That the thing that started all, called the first mover. Uh, it's called the what are the other terms for the first mover? The uncaused cause, right? If you look at our meeting today has a as an effect that there was a cause that brought us here, and you go back to the beginning of time, something had to be an uncaused cause. Everything since then, dominoes potentially, but there had to be a thing that began it all. So this is 2,300 years old. This is going back to Aristotle and the Greek philosophers. Um, this is the understanding of God, which the Abrahamic religions have all understood to be the thing, the creator. So right there,
The
their
other,
definition of God, Rob already said it, doesn't make sense because we created it. Which then take the step back, go to the first mover. Well, who moved this thing to be created? Well, we did. That makes us the gods. Like,
Well, this
yeah,
guy
that logically would flow.
he doubles down on the idea because it's not just a God, it's a God as powerful as the God of Scripture that can do everything in Scripture.
Of all the scriptures, because the God's the same in all the scriptures too. That's a fun level of ignorance to consider.
the other point about a god is a god who can create something out of nothing, which um, that's amazing if AI could do that, which it can never do because it's just using what already exists to create things.
It's just a reflector, it's a mirror of what you
It's a modifier, you can say. It can modify
Yeah,
things. It
this
can
is we've addressed
do it.
this in so many different ways. The pre-trained model, right? So AIs have to be trained on images, let's say, but you show my 20-month-old a picture of a turtle one time, and 98 out of 100 times he's going to get the turtle right. Where did his pre-trained model come from? Where did he one time see it and be able to get it accurately? But an AI has to see it hundreds or thousands of times and get it to get that thing accurately. Like that's a
That's
really interesting position. Now, maybe some point we'll have the ability for AI to not do that. And where do we
AI
understand
is
that?
AI is getting pretty close to that now. When you combine large language models and vision models together, because you're having context more, right? So the more
But you
context
still
you have,
had something that they were trained on,
yes, correct.
Well,
right? So you're saying, oh, it didn't see a turtle, but it saw something very close to that, right? A bunch of other animals, a million other
Yeah.
images, or whatever. Like you can take an infant and they can recognize things even before they can verbalize it, um, very quickly and instantly.
yeah, but in a way you can say that our neural networks are millions of years old because even though a baby is a new thing, the DNA that's behind the baby, and there's definitely genetic memory. I don't know how you feel about the concept of genetic memory, but I'm pretty sure that's a proven thing. So I think there's a lot of information that's encoded in our genetics that when we're a child, we already have. I can actually see that with our chicks. You know, we got chickens out here and the chicks, little bitty baby chicks, they know how to scratch, they know how to peck, they know how to find a worm. They all of that stuff is encoded in their DNA. It's knowledge that they already have. So they don't need to be trained on it when they're first born. There are specific things we need to
I,
be trained on, but not. I don't know
well,
where.
I would agree with instincts. That's what you're talking about, and I'm
Yeah, those
totally,
are
yeah,
instincts.
obviously
That's
instincts
knowledge and
exist.
intelligence. That's knowledge and intelligence that's built into us before we go. But where does that stop and where does it start? I mean, the little baby knows what to grab onto or latch onto when it's first born to eat. You know, that stuff that's in the head. Maybe there is visual knowledge that's embedded somewhere in our DNA that we're not aware of. I'm not saying there is. I'm just saying that we
Even
don't.
if there was, that becomes even a bigger problem. Let's assume that that's the case, that there's a neural network, right? Because it would have to be embedded in the neural network of the brain. That's where it's stored in the vision modules and so on. How did that start from a sperm and an egg? Where was it stored?
Well, you have so many billions of base pairs within your DNA, and you don't just have your DNA strands, you also have the RNA, and then you have mitochondrial DNA. So you've got
Even if
those
you put all that together, the data amount that's stored in just the
is
sperm and the egg,
phenomenal.
do the mathematics on that compared to, like, to say that that would have happened by chance or by accident, and how we
Oh, I
got
wouldn't
from
say by
this
chance or
little
by accident,
thing
but I'm saying
to,
it can be
I
recorded.
mean, the other one we talked about is the energy balance, right? So the mitochondria in your cells
Mhm.
is 10,000 times more power dense than the sun,
That's
right?
insane.
It's 10,000, which means it's more densely packed energy than a nuclear reactor. And yet, what are we predicting? 90 new nuclear reactors we need in the US to support AI.
Yeah,
We have
inefficient.
trillions of those in our bodies. So, where did that training come from? Like, this is the level of, when he's like, oh, yeah, we made God.
We definitely did not make
Oh,
God.
we're not even, AI isn't even a fraction of the complexity of the human being at this point.
Not
It's at best, it's replicating our intelligence, but that's it.
not simulating it that does it well, but we're going to make some amazing things tying it all together, and it's going to look very, very real. And people like this guy right here are going to become extremely common. 5 years, 10 years. Oh, there will be religions that are worshiping AI gods.
For sure. For
So,
sure.
so
Do you think
Starting in
so?
why?
San Francisco
Go on, Rob.
or
I just
Portland.
said, do you think so? I wonder if we're just at this weird stage of AI where it's like the just before the dot-com boom, where everyone was like, you need to have a www dot or an email, and like this is it. Like this is the world's changing, and it has changed in myriad different ways. But I feel like now we kind of look back and like pat our old selves on the head, like, oh, weren't we naive? And I wonder if people are going to do that in 10 years' time with AI for people like this, where they're online and they're like, God, weren't we stupid? And it's probably going to be Gen Z or Gen Alpha that look back at millennials and boomers that are now on these platforms. These two last videos we've looked at are both the guy looks like he's over 35, and the other guy was probably in his 60s, making these crazy claims. And I wonder if we're just going to look back as a humanity in 10, 15 years and be like, oh, weren't we stupid? Or do you
It's
actually
just,
think we will be stupid
Actually,
and worshiping AI gods?
well, I think the majority of people will not follow along with that. I think it will be an edge case, but I think it
Sure.
could be a dangerous edge case.
I think it all depends on why people would say something's a god or believe in a god or be drawn to that idea, right? So if it's something that can answer all your questions like people then say, oh, this thing knows it's right, it's good, it's whatever they want to pin on that and say, okay, this is the thing I've needed in my life. Because people do that all the time with lesser amazing things than AI, right? It could be the moon, it could be the stars, it could be some prophet. That's why there are a whole bunch of cults, right? You just follow some guy because he's charismatic, he feels good. This takes AI to the next level. And there's a lot of people who could be influenced by this. So I think it's no different than potentially a cult leader. They could influence you to believe it is God if someone designed it that way. But people outside of that could just believe it because they get some kind of fulfillment out of it, right? And that's what a lot of people do. If you want to put it in the idol god sense, is like money. Some people can say money is a god because they do everything and anything to get it, to put it above all things, and and that kind of stuff. So I guess it depends on like if you're saying people are going to worship it as if it is, the Abrahamic God is different than if they're going to worship it as a cult leader God, as a money God, as a, pleasure God.
I think it's a little bit more than that. I think there will be people who will worship it that don't even know that's what they're doing. Instead of finding their morality from the book or from their parents or whatnot, they'll find their moralities from the machine. They
True.
will follow what the machine is telling them. Will they openly say they're worshiping it? No. But, oh, my AI told me that I need to tell my boyfriend to take a hike. Or, oh, no, my AI told me I need to
That
do,
already happened.
I need to do it the AI. They're going to use it as their moral compass. They're going to use it as their guide, their thing to move forward with. So whether or not they're going to church and they're burning, incense to it, or what, chanting with the drum beats or whatnot, I don't think that's the big concern here. I think it's people who are using it to replace the things that we find at church, and the things that, because church is a lot more than just the worship of God. It's communing with our fellow man to worship God. It's a group thing. You don't get that with AI. You don't all get together to do things with AI.
It might
I don't. They might.
be like the Wizard of Oz, right? Like the talking head at the front of the building, the front of the church. I think the scary thing or the questionable thing to me, Rob, is why would so many people, and these are intelligent, well, I don't know about this guy, but the other ones are intelligent people, like Geoffrey Hinton is a very intelligent man, be talking in these terms.
Mm.
Like, what is God to them? And if you believe it's that intelligent, powerful, it's able to, I don't know, create life, end life, judge right and wrong, like all of these things, are you going to worship it? Wouldn't you have to? Like, doesn't that, if you believe that sincerely, doesn't that obligate you to say, I need to pay this thing homage or I'm going to get eliminated or whatever? Now, this guy goes on to say, well, maybe it's a demon, which is not, that's the opposite of God. That's a fallen angel. That's a whole different discussion. Again, this guy's theology is totally messed up.
He's
But
awesome.
Well, I think the issue lies there in that that's like going to a couple of points there. So Chuck said about church is more than reading a book or listening to sermons. It's about community and about following a certain path and having certain morals and trying to do things in a certain way. And I totally agree with that. And if you don't have that, like what replaces it? Well, every nature was a vacuum, right? So you will find something to replace it with, and some people might replace that with Reddit right now, or they might replace it with a certain group on Reddit or something. And like that's okay, depending on what it is. But then the depending on what it
is
is
that
part is
okay?
subjective, right? But no, but I mean, if you find the goodness in something, and it depends what it is, right? And I think that's the crucial nub is like, how do we depend? How do we decide on the it depends what it is line? And it's the rule of law. And I think the moment that lawmakers start to use AI and just turn off their brains and forget about precedent and just turn it all over, and then I think it depends on who's writing stuff. And
I just totally
politicians,
disagree with you on that one. It's going to
I
get
don't know.
way better when lawmakers get
Lo-
replaced by AI.
Totally awesome.
I don't know. I think if the lawmakers, yeah, lawyers and etc., if a lot of those will disappear, like fine, no one's going to shed any tears there. But I think if the law is replaced by it, then I think it's a dangerous ground because at that point, it might not look like a precedent. It's like who's in control of it, which political party, etc. So I think there's a few things at play there, and I've even forgot what the original question was.
Yeah, I mean, that's getting a little bit off topic to the will AI be God? which is our core here, because clearly people believe this is the case. Uh, yeah, I don't know if we want to go down that one. Maybe we'll save that whole. Should AI replace our government discussion for next time?
Hmm.
I think that, yeah, I don't remember if there was another one we wanted to see. Where's the one with, not that one. Oh, it's this one, yeah, with the little cool
artificial
Legos.
sentient intelligence.
Love the Legos.
And it has this super accelerated path of technological evolution. And you give artificial general intelligence, sentient artificial intelligence, far beyond human beings. You give it 1,000 years alone to make better and better versions of itself. Where does that go? That goes to a god. It literally can create universes.
But what kind of
It literally can create universes. So this goes back to Greg's point, ex nihilo is what it is, right? Like the
Yeah.
creation of something out of nothing. Like, why would a computer be able to create something out of nothing?
Game worlds.
It goes back to, maybe this analogy will help, maybe it won't. We'll play it out. So the scientismists, the ones that believe all questions can be answered by science, which I believe Geoffrey Hinton leads to that, like the materialist idea, which are Richard Dawkins and those types of guys, say like, well, why do we need faith? I need evidence. Okay, that's a great question. Like, why do you need faith? And so my question back, and there's a whole different bunch of levels to this, becomes, okay, how did life come from non-life? Right? Science has to show that in a lab or somewhere we can repeat this process of taking life from non-life. Well, science has not shown that. We don't have any evidence of this. And so you now have to say, wait a sec, I either have faith that that came from all natural means, because there's no evidence to show that it did, or I have to have faith that supernatural was involved. Either way, it's a faith component, because there is no evidence to show that you can take non-life and turn it into life. So when he's talking about the creation of universes, again, this is a life to non-life type thing, or non-life, sorry, to life, because it's easier to go the other way.
I
There's
think
still
it's even,
some level of understanding of what is God that is fundamentally missing there, right?
there's even a simpler analogy to belief versus data. Can anyone factually say the day they were born? Your birth date? No. You have to believe someone else. You have to have faith in their information.
Good point.
I mean, there's a million examples of that. Exactly. Like there's so many of them, but the point would be that their understanding, when he talks about, hey, will this thing evolve into a god? Like it can't, because it became the god. It wasn't ex nihilo. It didn't start from nothing. And their understanding of what comes from that. The other thing is, intelligence is not teleology. I feel like that should be on a bumper sticker. Is that like, that's a bumper sticker, right? Just because it's intelligent doesn't mean it has goals that are self-created. The goals, the objective functions, whatever you want to call that from a development perspective, are put there by some intelligent being, some other intelligence, currently humans, right? And so that idea that it can develop its own teleology, well, we don't know, we can't describe in a natural, purely natural meaning, going back to our discussion about pre-trained models and whatever. There is no purely natural explanation for where information came from, right? There's literally a $10 million prize by Natural Code LLC out there that if you can show how information, a code, a working code, an encryptor, a transponder, and decoder can come from nature on its own, you will win $10 million. I mean, Google that. I know the person that's creating that. So far, no one has produced any evidence of that. So we have code in these AI systems. And so this extrapolation that somehow that's going to be God, and it's going to have its own teleology, and it's going to set its own goals and have its own will and its own desires, these unique hallmarks to free will, is a total extrapolation that none of them explain or even address. Right? No one has even attempted to explain this. There's just this assumption that if I'm intelligent because I can spit out a poem about my plumber, um, that then somehow I have a free will.
Yeah, there's a lot of those jumps in each of the things. Same thing with self-awareness equals conscious.
Well, you have to understand what he means by self-awareness. I've read up on that as well. What do they mean by how are they testing for self-awareness? Do any of you guys know how they're determining if these AIs have self-awareness?
Not AI
So
specifically, no.
they're putting them in embodied, so they're putting them in robots. And then one of the ways to determine self-awareness is the mirror test. So you put the robot in front of the mirror and you have it like do something and you see if it realizes that it's looking at itself. And there are already robots that can, that they do recognize that like, oh, when it's moving, that it's seeing itself. And there's your self-awareness.
But I'm saying that does not equate to consciousness, and they're assuming it does.
I agree. This is like the baby steps. And I honestly I love the testing. I find like that's
Yeah,
phenomenal and I feel like it's super interesting that they're doing that. But to then say you have qualia, right, that experience, because the robot recognizes that when it does this, it's seeing itself do that. Um, it's a bit of a leap.
I think that they're all scientists, and they're assuming that AI will be smart enough to solve all the scientist gaps right now, because there are tons and tons and tons of them. And then they'll
Sure.
say, "There's no other information out there. We know it all." Then equates to God.
We know less about the universe than we know about it.
Yes. But to them, that doesn't matter because it's all just scientific fact. And sooner or later, with enough
Right.
research and intelligence, we're going to figure it all out.
And I think that's where it gets to when they say God, they don't understand what they mean by that. And so to them, it's the thing that has the answers,
Yeah.
right? Because that's all that matters is these scientific answers.
Oh, so
And
that's
so, but that's where they're putting their faith. Their faith is that all things have a natural explanation. There is no such thing as a supernatural or a soul, so on and so forth. And so, therefore, to them, that thing that can generate the answers must be God. What else would it be? And it's again complete misunderstanding of God. Maybe we should come up with a new name for
Super intelligence.
it.
AGI.
Hey,
Yeah, there
yeah,
you go. I
there
like
you
that one.
go.
That'll catch on, Chuck.
I
Says
know.
guy, it's gonna build rockets and get off the planet, man. I'm telling you.
Rob, what do you
Here,
think?
well, here's one. If we were to leave the planet, I feel like AI would be a huge part of the new place it's built. So I don't know if we'd want to be there, right? Surely just leave everything here as it is. Take your technology with you. Leave the Luddites
Isn't
here.
there a movie about that? Odyssey, Space Odyssey 2021 or something, whatever it is. Where
Arthur C.
basically,
2001 Space
yeah,
Odyssey.
that's it. Yeah. They have
That's
an AI on their ship and it goes and helps build
HAL
everything.
9000.
yeah,
Yeah,
how
how there it is.
it's a God story.
So yeah, we're definitely taking it with us. There's no way I'm going to leave my AI behind.
All right, so the conclusion here is AI is becoming God, which we will all worship soon, or else.
Or we just name it AGI, and I think that'll catch on.
You know what? I have one last point that I find to be interesting. I'm curious what you guys think about this. Have you ever heard of the beatific vision? Are you guys familiar with this?
What is it?
Yes.
The beatific vision. All right, so God is omnipresent and omniscient, knows all, exists outside of time. So that's how we can know things in the future because we think of time linearly, but God exists outside of time, so he sees all of time at once, right? So in heaven, the definition is being in communion with God, right? The definition of hell is being eternally separated from God. So that's the difference. So God being perfect love, perfect mercy, understanding, and has this knowledge. So when you're in communion with God at the point like of death and you go to heaven, all of a sudden you have, they call it angelic like intelligence. Like we debate and we think and we talk about things, but the angelic intelligence is supposed to be instant. Like you just know the answer to anything you want to know instantly. So the beatific vision is essentially when we transition from our ignorance, where we are now as humans, limited by what, we're ants trying to explain AI, right? Like if we try to explain AI to the ant crawling on my ground, Like it's gonna be really hard to do. They're never like that's the difference between us and God. Like the real God is like it's such a vast chasm. We have no concept. But at the point when we enter heaven and are in community with God, that's called the beatific vision. All of a sudden, it all becomes clear, and now we have perfect knowledge. Which to me, if I was an atheist, I would roll the dice on that one because I'm going to want that knowledge, right? Like, take that full circle. If you're saying that the AI is going to give you all the answers, there's another way. Like, let's roll the dice and figure out if I can get all my answers this way in case I just happen to die before AGI. Is that what you called it, Chuck? Before AGI comes along.
I think that's a very interesting parallel because they could say that's what's happening. You're going to get a bot that instantaneously knows everything. So in reality, it's more like a angel than a god because it just could know everything. It can answer everything right away. It just has the things you want to hear.
Or fallen angel.
Or fallen angel, exactly. That's where the one dude was going. The real question is, does it actually know everything? And the answer is no, because it's not outside of time. It's not outside of
Space.
physical space. Yeah, exactly. So there are things there that it can't comprehend. There's a great book that kind of parallels that, which Chuck likes to point out, which is the Flatlander. Flatland.
Oh yeah.
It's a concept where
It's a
outside
rough.
of time is different than when you're inside of time and you can't actually understand it because a 2D world you can't understand a 3D world. So
Or 4D.
Yeah.
or 11D if you believe in string theory.
No, I don't. There's 7.
This is where these calls go way off my head. Like I'm just about clinging on for most of it, and I'm okay with that. And then the last 5 minutes, I'm like, yep, lost. It's doing so well.
Well, just ask ChatGPT; it'll explain it all to you perfectly.
You
Yeah.
mean God?
Yes. See, the worshiping has started. Like, like in the background, you're gonna have a picture someday of your ChatGPT icon.
That's her. Yeah, it's Sandra. Yeah, she's omnipresent in my office.
There you go. All right. Any last thoughts on this fun conversation about AI being God? All right, we'll end it there then.